All right, Ray Charles is at it again. Hang loose and we'll get into it. All right, so we had a shop contact us, and this is some kind of foreign V6 Toyota V6. They had it honed and decked, and when they went to put it together, they noticed the piston seemed to rock excessively. So they wanted us to just double check, what was going on. And immediately upon just a visual inspection, you can see actual shadows up at the top of a few cylinders. So obviously it's got some wear. And it was honed, and brand new standard bore pistons was purchased, and that was supposed to be good to go. But we measured a piston, and these things don't need 2/1000ths clearance. They probably need 1/1000ths and a half, but just for good measure, I dialed in 2/1000ths clearance and set up a bore gauge. And come on over here and I'll show you what we're working with. So get in here and see if you can see that big old shadow right there. So I mean, you can't feel it, but you can see it. And another thing that that I see all the time is, like especially on these forums and stuff, people say, "Oh, yeah, man, I have my block honed." The chances of a used motor just honing and going back with standard rings and pistons and the skirt clearance being correct is probably into single digit percentages. There are some low mile engines that were really taken care of that you could probably just hone and put a set of rings in and go again. But the vast majority are going to be out around, they're going to be tapered, they're going to have, some wear, especially where the ring parks at the top of the cylinder. Almost always. I mean, I just rarely see one that's going to just hone it, and it be good to go. But again, it does happen, but it's rare. So, when you see shadows in the top of the bore or the piston rocks excessively, and that's why I tell everybody, you need, even if it's cheap $100 set of micrometers and a $50 dial bore gauge, these tools are references. So they was just quickly, there was a guy confused about measuring his bearing clearances, and he was getting some crazy super tight clearance, and I'm sure it wasn't right, and people were saying, "Oh, your micrometer is no good, or your dial bore gauge is no good." We don't care in real life if this is accurate or not. It doesn't matter, because we're using it as a reference. So I take this micrometer and I measure that piston right there, and once I measure that piston, I take this same micrometer and set my dial bore gauge. So I don't care if this thing is off an inch, it's irrelevant, because we're using it as a reference. So measure the piston, set the bore gauge, put it in the hole. I mean, if 1/1000ths is not 1/1000ths on your gauge, then you need to throw it away and get another one. But I've never seen one that 1/1000ths wasn't 1/1000ths, or 1/1000ths is 9/10. I mean, and you can check it. I mean, change this 1/1000ths and see if it changes the dial bore gauge 1/1000ths. So there's ways to reference, these measurements. So it's just not, you're just not guessing. And we do the same thing with crankshafts. When we're measuring bearing clearances, we take a micrometer, we measure the crank. We lock the micrometer down, we set the dial bore gauge. Then we put the dial bore gauge in the bearings and see what it says. And that's how we measure bearing clearances. So, again, you don't need a $200 set of Starrett micrometers to do this job. I mean, it's nice to have it, but you just don't have to. And you can buy it. And man, when I started, I bought a set of Chinese micrometers from like 0 to 6 inches. I mean, back then they were expensive. Now they don't cost nothing, but back then they were like $300 or something, which was super cheap because a set of these were $1,000. So, you know, that puts it into perspective. And I still, to this day, and I bought those when I was 17 years old or 18 years old, and I still have that set of Chinese micrometers today, and they still pass calibration. I mean, I don't use them really, but I do still own them. So anyway, I didn't want to get off on a rabbit trail, but I mean, sometimes that stuff is relevant to what we're talking about here. All right, so come over here and so I've got, so 0, if the gauge reads 0, we would have 2,000ths clearance. And so you'll see where we at here. So that's 2,500ths too big. And down here in the bottom, that's about 3. In the middle is about 2. Man. Yeah, I mean 2 or 3. I mean it's all over the place. So, golly. Yep. So I mean you see, I mean it's just all over the place. It's all over the place, and I mean so we got 3 on top of 2. I mean we got 5,000ths clearance on a cast piston. I mean, that thing is going to make noise when it's hot. I mean, you see some of this stuff, you crank it up and it's a little bump, 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 bump till it gets warm. But I mean, 5,000ths on a cast piston, that ain't never going to shut up. I mean, it's going to make noise forever. So, and another thing, and I don't know if you can see it good. Maybe this side. Come over here. Can you see that crosshatch? I mean, it's almost straight. There is no angle to the crosshatch at all. So even if it was on size, the crosshatch is wrong, and I'll guarantee you the profile of the crosshatch is wrong. I mean, it looks horrible. It just looks absolutely horrible. I mean, I'd almost be willing to bet that was a dingleberry. A 320 grit dingleberry is probably what that was. But I mean, I can't say that for sure. But like I say, the crosshatch is just, it's half what it should be at least. So anyway, that's just a FYI. You know, again, we not picking on nobody or you know, trying to run nobody under the bus. I'm just saying, stuff like this, if you miss it in the beginning, you know, a $200 or $300 process is gonna cost you 5 or 10 times that at the back door, having to go back and tear this whole motor apart and redo all this again the second time. So, you know, and as far as I know, the customer asked for whatever it takes to fix it, and whoever done the work, you know, chose to do it like this. So, you know, just be aware, man. You need to check your stuff, regardless of what you think or hope. You need to check it, because junk like this happens all the time. All right, let me get this thing set up in here, and we're gonna start boring holes. All right, so we got a 20 or half a millimeter over NPR piston set. You know, essentially it's the same kind of piston. It ain't the same piston, but it's really similar. It's just these are 20. So a bunch of people ask, so I'm gonna just kind of go over it right quick. So we got a micrometer, but this piston measures 3 7/19 almost, and so we're gonna put like 1/1000 clearance in it. So we set our boring bar micrometer to 715, and that'll leave us, you know, whatever, 3.5 or 4 to hone. and then the micrometer just goes in the boring bar like this, and it snaps in place, and then that sets the height for the tool. So we tighten the tool up, pull the micrometer out, and then this thing has a depth gauge. So when we do our first cylinder, I'll establish that depth gauge, so when it gets to the right depth, it just cuts itself off. And then that way, if I'm off doing something else, it'll just knock off in the bottom of the hole, and then I can just run by whenever and rapid it back out, go to the next hole, send it off, and then go back to doing something else productive. So that's how that works. I just figured I'd tell you that, because like I say, people ask all the time. And if we wanted to, I mean, normally I don't, but if we wanted to, there, you know, we can check our bore size and make sure that we're, you know, in that window that we want to be in. And yeah, that's 5 thousandths to go. So we'll get this first hole 100% bored, get a good accurate bore measurement, and then if we need to adjust our micrometer a little bit, you know, 1 thousandths or so either way, because something like this, I don't really want to hone more than 3 or 4, you know, max. And again, a little V6, it ain't like 4-cylinder, you know, it ain't gonna take forever, but you know, it's still, time is time, and the more you got to hone, the more heat you put in the system that's not beneficial to nothing. So I'd rather hone the least amount possible to get the job done accurately. So that's how we set the stop, and then, you know, it fed out the bottom and it's done. So now we just wrap it out of the hole. And everything looks nice. Yep, she's all cleaned up, so now we should be able to get a relatively accurate measurement. Yeah, so that's a full 5 to hone. So we're gonna adjust our micrometer to take 1 more thousandths out. And that should put us where we want to be. And then we just come over to the next hole. Center it up. just like that, and we'll get the rest of them bored, and we'll bring you back when we get it over in the home, and we'll get this thing honed and straightened out. All right, so we finished boring it. We got it in the cylinder hone, and I've already roughed in all the holes with 150 grit, and we got them all to size. And now I got 500 grit in it to bring the RPK down. So, and Andrew will put it on the screen, but the first to rough it in and bring it to size, you can see, let me get my phone, you can see the profilometer reading. So we had almost 19 RPK and almost 50 RVK. So after the 500 grit, we brought the RP down to 7.43 and then the RV to 32. I would really like to have a little more RV, but I mean, that's good all around numbers, but it could stand, you know, 40, a little higher in the 30s or even early 40s on the RV. But like everything else, you know, we getting there. So I'm gonna knock out a couple of more here on camera, so just so you can see. But like I say, this is just the finished pass, and it only takes like 8 or 10 swipes with really light pressure to just knock the peaks off. And basically what we're doing is we have to start with the hone profile looks like this, right? And then when we come in with the really fine stones, we just knock these peaks off. So then when it's all finished, none of this up here exists anymore. And this is the problem. So all of those peaks, the ring, as the ring is breaking in and the cylinder's breaking in, is pulling all of these peaks off, and then all that uglies up the face of the ring, and then it goes in the oil and all of that. And so once we get all of these peaks off, then all of this fills up with oil, and now the piston and the ring are riding on this bearing area. So you got all this cushion for the rings and the piston to ride on. But it's important to get that peak off. And I can tell, like when we started, you know, really trying to pay attention to, you know, plateau honing and getting these peaks off, when we would do the first oil change, used to, the oil would be, you know, dirty and the filter would be dirty. I mean, there wouldn't be no chunks of stuff, but it would just be, you could see that really fine, just like a really, really fine slurry in the bottom of the filter or a little bit in the bottom of the pan. But once we started doing, you know, working on our honing process, I noticed that now, especially the LS stuff or any of this late model stuff with just these little bitty rings, the oil is clean as a pin, the bottom of the pan's clean, the filter's clean. I mean, you just don't see any of that metal anymore, just because, you know, it's just not tearing all that junk out of the cylinder. And I don't know if you can, let's see. So this is a roughed in hole, and this is a finished hole, if you can see the difference. And you can see the crosshatch angle is proper now compared to what it was before. And I mean, you know, even though it's got texture, you can't feel it. I mean, it's just slick. You don't feel anything. and then I'll get Andrew to put the finish reading after we plateaued it, and like I say, you can see both readings. But so that pretty much concludes that job, because all we needed to do was just fix the cylinders. So that's done. We got to final wash it, and it's ready to leave here. So all right, that's another one in the books, and hopefully that was entertaining or informative. We'll see you on the next one. Thank you so much.